All right, here we go. So on Thursday, we ended with the model of the gains from trade. The easiest way to see it is from the production possibilities frontier. Those of you who had Econ 100A have seen this in much more detail than how we're going to use it here. So bully for you. We're not going to go into all that gory detail. So production possibilities frontier, remember we put the two types of output on the axes. So we take all the stuff that's produced and we divide it up into two categories, and we graph those on the axes. So for creativity's sake, I'll call it good A and good B. We've got a standard downward sloping nonlinear production possibilities frontier, which tells us the set of combinations of output that this economy can produce in some time period given the available resources and knowledge and technology. One way to consume some combination of output beyond the current production possibilities frontier is through growth, which we talked about on the previous day. Another way to consume some combination of output that is beyond the production possibilities frontier is through specialization and trade. With specialization and trade, there's a whole lot of stuff I'm not going to do, so we're just going to jump to the end line. With specialization and trade, people, economies, or anything in between specializes in the activities in which they have a comparative advantage, those things they do relatively well, that is with low opportunity cost, and trade for the goods and services in which they don't have the comparative advantage, that is, they trade for the goods where the opportunity cost of producing them is quite high. Through specialization and trade, it's possible for all parties to the specialization and trade to have more, and we call that the gains from trade. So with specialization and trade, it's possible to consume some combination, I'll call it X, that's out here beyond the production possibilities frontier. Combination X refers to an amount of good A, X sub A, and an amount of good B, X sub B. With specialization in the activities in which this economy has the comparative advantage, and in trade for the other activities, or excuse me, for the other goods, this economy can have more of everything, more of A and more of B than it could if it tries to be self-sufficient. That's the idea of the gains from trade. The gains themselves are measured as the increases in output. So combining, not looking just at this economy, but combining the world's economies, the world will be able to produce a greater amount of good A and a greater amount of good B than would be the case if everyone was self-sufficient. Those gains from trade exist if four conditions are satisfied. Gains from trade exist if these four conditions are satisfied. First, the two parties to the transaction have to have different opportunity costs. If the opportunity costs are the same for all parties, then there are no gains from trade. It has to be a comparative advantage, and comparative advantage only exists if there's differences in the opportunity costs. Second, there has to be some means of transportation. So if we're talking about trading goods, or even if we're talking about trading services, there has to be some relatively inexpensive way of transporting the goods between the two economies. If the transportation means are very expensive, the expense of transportation will wipe out any gains from trade, and we won't have specialization in trade. So the transportation network has to exist, and it has to be inexpensive enough that there are still gains once the economies specialize and trade with each other. Third, there needs to be information flows. If I have no idea who you are or what you do, I'm not going to trade with you. So there has to be some way of communicating information between the two parties. If you're in Florida and I'm in Washington State, you may do something relatively well that I need, and I may do something relatively well that you need, and we may be able to figure out how to trade. But if you're in Florida and I'm in Washington State and we can't communicate with each other, if there's no information flow, that trade is not going to take place. So information has to move from one place to the other. And there has to be some sort of a market, not like the grocery store, but some sort of scheme by which trade can take place. Some agreed upon set of rules. And here we talk about property rights schemes. Some agreed upon set of rules that govern who owns a good and whether or not they have the right to sell it or trade it with somebody else. With those four preconditions, then it's possible to have gains from trade. In economic history, we see that differences in natural endowments, where there is a land that floods periodically and therefore it's relatively fertile for growing some things, where there is land where there's lots of rivers and there's those wonderful fish we call salmon that swim upstream in those rivers, where there are places that have land that floods a lot, so they're really good for, that area is really good for growing rice, where there's land that happens to have lots and lots of very tall, straight trees, so that land is good for lumber. Those are the natural endowments. And when the natural endowments differ, that's going to create differences in opportunity cost. So the opportunity cost of producing long, straight lumber in North Carolina, which is known for the North Carolina pines, tall trees, straight trees, the opportunity cost of producing lumber in North Carolina are going to be relatively low. The opportunity cost of producing salmon in Washington State are relatively low, in both cases because of the natural endowments in those two places. We say that when there are gains from trade, it's that trade improves every community's social welfare. Assuming what? What do we need to assume in order to make this assertion, in addition to these four conditions I just specified? So in addition to these four, I want you to think for a second, I'm not going to take hands quite yet, I want you to think for a second about what else we need to assume in order to conclude that there are gains from trade, that communities increase their social welfare. You're going to think about this, having now thought, and now you're going to talk to people in your group. Groups, remember, in this section go across the row, so that's group 3, group 3, group 3. Groups in this section, this group of 3, these 3 seats, you're a group of 3. These 4 seats, you're a group of 4. These 3 seats, 1, 2, 3, you're a group of 3, and the end 3 seats, you're a group of 3, and the wedge, each row is its own group. Talk to each other, make sure you've got at least 2 things on your list. So you guys are group. Make sure you've got at least 2 things on your list. Turn around and join your group for this one. We've got another one later on. Alrighty. Let's see. I can start with somebody I know, but that's not fair. So I'll start with somebody I don't know. Who's the reporter in your group? What's your name? Okay. All right, we're gonna get some answers. Sophie. Sophie, what's one that you came up with? So we're assuming that more goods makes people happier. Notice that I put up there social welfare, right? I didn't say the number of goods. So I made an implicit assumption. Good job. I made an implicit assumption that social welfare, which is some sort of weird sort of society-wide measure of how we're doing, that social welfare increases with the quantity of goods. That's good. All right. Rachel, you writing these down? Would you do me a favor and write them on the board so I can keep walking around up here? Okay. So SW includes goods. How's that? All right. Let me get another one. Who else? Who's the reporter in your group? What's your name? Yeah, Eric. What's one that you guys came up with? That the people have to be involved in the market somehow. Every people? Every person? Okay, so inequality issues. Maybe we want to take into account inequality issues. So the community, so some average of the community is better off, but not everybody in the community is better off. Is that good? All right, so inequality issues. And they're touching on something important. When we talk about increases in gain, or when we talk about gains from trade, are we talking about every single person is better off? In order for there to be gains from trade, is it necessary that every single person actually be better off? No, no. When we're talking about gains from trade, one thing that we're talking about is we often are doing this economy by economy, which is the point that you made, but there's something else we want to get at, and that is every person actually better off. Stand up, hand up. Okay, so assuming that the interactions, how about if I say this way, that the interactions, can we assume that if the interactions are by choice as opposed to forced, that then there's a proper power balance between the two parties? Does that work? Okay, so voluntary. I want to say Mark, but I don't think that's right. Go ahead. Oh, interesting. So that there is this trade that takes place, and we need to make sure that the receiving community has some way of taking advantage of or benefiting from those goods. Wow, how are we going to write that down briefly? Infrastructure is an interesting point. So usable by recipient. How's that? Is that good? Does that work? Is that close? Okay. Yeah. Good. So lack of negative externalities. So that this is not coming about as a result of war, for instance. So that we don't have trade, but the trade, in order to affect trade, we had to slaughter a few thousands or tens of thousands or more people. Way up high. Perfect competition. Do we need to assume perfect competition? Yeah. This one we don't need to assume perfect competition. For some model that you solve in 100A, probably so. But for talking about this particular point, about whether trade improves every community's social welfare, perfect competition, whatever kind of form of market, we don't need to worry about it. Okay, so what's your name? Allie. So Allie's point, I think, relates back to the first point. Correct me if I'm wrong. And she said that every person's needs or desires are improved by that they're all the same. So that the acquisition of more goods improves their social welfare because they all have similar preferences. Yeah. Okay. So I think we're going to subsume that under the first one. Okay.
Maybe the wage stickiness and retraining ability, like the people directly being affected.
Oh, you're so 20th century here. So I talking about wage stickiness and retraining. You're really 20th century, right? So we're doing pre-colonial right now. Yeah. So hold that answer for about 12 weeks. I'll have a question, and it'll be the right answer in about 10 or 12 weeks. All right, let me see. I got some more people down over here. What else did I have? Yep. No dumping?
Just that it doesn't occur. No job loss is resulted from the trade.
Oh, no job loss. When we specialize in trade, are there job losses? Yes. Are there job losses in the short run? Yes, because the people who are no longer producing the good that was being produced when they were self-sufficient, they're no longer producing that good. Are there job losses in the long run? What's the assumption of the model? Are there job losses in the long run? No, because in the long run, the economy is always at full employment. So another, I think what's related to that is an implicit assumption here is that we're talking about the long run. That when we talk about the increases in social welfare, we're not talking about 1647 versus 1649. We're talking about over long periods of time. Okay, there's another one that I'm going to take one or two more, and I'm going to give you one I want to make sure we include. Yep. Tariffs are low enough so it doesn't overcome the gains from trade. Great answer. Hold on to it. We're doing pre-colonial. Yeah, so we'll come back to that kind of concept in a little while. Last one.
Full information so that the parties that are trading know the actual value of what they're.
Okay, so full information, not just that I know somebody in Florida exists, but we share information about what the goods are, what their characteristics are, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and one group, I guess, together, but one group isn't checked into.
So no asymmetric information issues. Okay, good. So another piece that we haven't touched on, that's part of the gains from trade, which I think is really important, is when we talk about the gains from trade and we talk about trade improving everyone or improving a society, we sort of mutter our way through something, which is that we don't say potentially, that the gains from trade could potentially improve everyone's social welfare. Because with the gains from trade, the notion is that there are gains, that some people will be made better off, and the idea is that they are able to compensate the losers, that the winners, back to the issue about inequality, that the winners compensate the losers. Now, there's no guarantee in any sort of trading scheme that that's going to happen, that the winners are actually going to compensate the losers. But we say that there are gains from trade, even if we don't force some compensation of the losers by the winners, we say there are gains from trade because, for economists, the fact that it is theoretically possible for the winners to compensate the losers and the winners still have more and the losers are compensated for their losses, since it's theoretically possible for that to happen, we say there are society-wide gains from trade. So we can have, quote, gains from trade, even in the presence of these inequality issues, even in the presence of the power struggles, even in the presence of some people gain a whole lot and some people get screwed. We can still say there's gains from trade because it is possible to construct a scheme. We don't have to construct a scheme, and we don't have to enforce the scheme. It's possible to construct a scheme by which the winners compensate the losers, and still everybody remains better off. Those are the conditions under which we have gains from trade. Great, thank you very much, Rachel. Okay. Oh, I had to click. There it is. Cool. So when we summarize the first 12,000 or so years of economic history, what do we get? We get that before Columbus, so before European exploration, the landmass that is now North America, and particularly the United States, was very settled, especially along the coast and through the south. And so if we look at this map, we can see where's my thing? Oh, it's in my hand. There it is. We can see the settlement. So the darker the shade, the greater the number of people. Now, this is not a lot. The darkest shade here is 4 more people per square mile. But quite a lot of settlement here along our coast, the Pacific coast. Quite a lot of settlement along the eastern seaboard and down here in Georgia. But settlement throughout a big chunk of the southeast, settlement in the middle part of the country, and so on. So there was a lot of settlement people throughout the area. Native American population, the estimates vary. One estimate is 4 million, another estimate is 7 million. But basically, A lot. So millions of people, 4, 7, 10, something like that. Million people, circa 1,500. By 1,700, the estimates are that there were less than 250,000 of Native Americans in North America. The decline in population comes about largely as a result of disease. Yes, there's also battles, but a large part of the decline in population comes about as a result of disease. Native populations had no immunity against European diseases. So I'll tell you, we experienced this in minor form last year when we lived in upstate New York. Having lived in California, I've been back since 1992, and I grew up here. My son's lived his life since we adopted him when he was a year old, so he lived most of his life here in America. We lived in America, that too, but also in California. Oh, Becky's is not part of here. Sure it is. Okay. So anyway, so we get back to New York, and we were all sicker than we'd ever been. And part of it was that there's new bugs. There's different bugs back east than there are in California. And so we didn't have that natural immunity that we have to a lot of the bugs that are here in California. We didn't die because we're still here. But that immunity, we build up, everybody builds up an immunity to certain bugs, to certain diseases, based on where you live and based on what you interact with. And then when there's a whole new set of bugs that are introduced, that could be lethal. What did those include? Smallpox, measles, bubonic plague, just a flat-out flu, such as what we're going through right now. All led to what they think are very high levels of death. There was also some incidences of deliberate introduction of disease. So I taught for many years at UMass Amherst, and Amherst is named for, let's call him William, Mr. Colonel, General, somebody, Amherst. And what Amherst was famous for was taking some blankets that had been used to wrap around someone who was sick with smallpox, and then offering those blankets as a gift to the Native Americans who lived nearby. Yeah, careful when people re-gift things. So we had a big decline in population. There were lots and lots of different tribes or nations. You do not have to memorize this graph. I just wanted to show it to you, this map, and show you that's the variety of different tribes or nations that were here in America before Europeans came to the shores. So lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of different groups. And am I going to go on? Nope. What else do I have? Natural resources, we looked at that the other day. Natural resources determined activity, and trade existed. So we looked at the trade routes last week. All right, let's do colonial history equally quickly. We just ran through 10,000 or 12,000 years. Let's get quickly through some more. Colonial history, real fast. Colonial history. There was exploration and settlement of what's now the United States by many countries. So not all the settlers are English. Hopefully you know some of this from your U.S. history courses. So there are British or English settlers here, but also Dutch, Swedish, French, Spanish, Russian here on the West Coast, all in North America. So the fact that we wound up as coming out of the British colonies, there's a whole other lecture about that, which we're not going to do. So what can I say? The British colonies form the basis for the country, which is the United States. So the laws that we have, the customs that we have, come from the British colonies. They don't come from the Spanish colonies, the French colonies, the Russian colonies. It comes down as a byproduct of the British colonies, and the British legal system is the basis of what we have. The various regions, which we're going to figure maps out, the various regions had economic activities that reflect their natural endowment. So first, let's make sure we're good on the various regions. So you need a copy of your map. So here I'm showing New England. New England are those 6 states. Now states, and those states now, which were not all colonies. Maine, so the big one up here is Maine, lots of fabulous blueberries in Maine, which was part of Massachusetts until 1820. It goes alphabetically right to left, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. All right, so alphabetically right to left, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and then below that is Massachusetts. Tucked down here, it's not an island, but it is tiny, because islands are tiny, is Rhode Island. And then below Massachusetts is Connecticut. Remember, Connecticut's close to New York. People can live in Connecticut and work in New York City. You've got to get Connecticut close to New York. So Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont goes alphabetically from east to west. Massachusetts is the big one you want to know. Rhode Island is not an island, but it is tiny, so it's a little one that's tucked underneath. And next to that is Connecticut. Needs to be close to New York because people live in Connecticut and work in New York. Rich people. Next, the middle colonies. The middle colonies are these. New York, that big state there is New York. New York City is just down right there. So New York City is that big dot right down there, and the arm sticking out, that's Long Island Sound. Pennsylvania, New Jersey is here in the armpit of New York. And then Delaware is this little itty bitty state. The little triangle is Delaware. So the little triangle there that you can barely see is Delaware. And then we have the southern colonies. The southern colonies include Maryland, which when I was a kid, I always thought that one was shaped kind of like a gun, because it's shaped like this. No, I always thought that looked kind of like a gun. So there's Maryland. Virginia. West Virginia gets separated off from Virginia later on. So West Virginia, which is just there to the left of Virginia, we don't think about yet. It's part of Virginia at the time. North Carolina is above South Carolina. Isn't that great? The northern one is above the southern one. That works pretty well. North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia. The southern colonies. The Georgia coast. So Georgia has a coast. How are you going to remember that Georgia has a coast? Georgia. Because there's a song about it. Why would you write a song about something that didn't have a coast? All right. Activities. What's this map supposed to be? I don't know what's supposed to be on this map. Oh, this is where the activities come in. All right. What are the various activities? In the New England region. The New England region was known for fishing and whaling, for subsistence farming, for shipbuilding, for timber and crafts. So if you print out the slides, you don't have the map, but you have the list. So that's what's going on in New England. Notice there's subsistence farming. There's not a lot of big farming in New England. It's really cold in New England. They have very long winters and very cold winters in New England. The worst winter that we had when we lived in Tewksbury, Massachusetts, the first snow was on October 4th and the last snow was on May 4th. So in New England, they have 4 seasons. So they go like this: winter, spring, summer, fall. You can't grow a whole lot when you've got your seasons that way. You need to have a longer spring and summer to get a lot grown. All right, next, New York City and Philadelphia. So New York City, once again, is right where Long Island, which is this little spit sitting out there, hits the rest of New York, is New York City, and then Philadelphia is a port city right there where New Jersey and Philadelphia come together. Those were the major shipping ports. Boston somewhat too. But New York and Philadelphia were the major shipping ports, and most importantly, were the centers of insurance and finance. So they were then, as now, financial centers. Why is New York City a financial center today in 2013? Because it was a financial center 250 years ago. Past dependence. The middle colonies, New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, lots of farming. It's not as cold as it is in New England. You'd think it's equally well north, and parts of it are, but it's not quite as bitter cold and nasty as New England. Wheat, ranching, iron making, and crafts. When you think about Amish farmers and you think about the gorgeous, green, beautiful, lush land of the Amish, that's Pennsylvania. So you get a lot of Pennsylvania Dutch down in this region. Why? Because there's fabulous farming there because the land is absolutely perfect for farming. So that's what you're doing in the middle colonies. In Virginia and Maryland,